This is a surprise crop. This was Russian kale that I planted last fall, and when we had the super cold weather in December, it looked really bad, like it died back, and I gave up on it. I had it covered this whole time with the lining, and the wind blew it off the other day. And look at this, I have actual kale I can harvest. Still a little cold hurt pieces, but look at that. I have more kale than I expected. I am so excited.
Hey there, welcome back. This is the Bruce, one of the roosters my daughter has raised. He was waiting to be picked up by his new owners, and his brother William Wallace had already been picked up about 2 weeks ago. Well, we're here to tell you about our homestead this week, and I don't have much to talk about outside because it is still winter. But I am going to be telling you more about our solar power usage. I've been calculating the numbers and finding out, was it worth it? Something we really couldn't tell until after we'd put the system in. So I started by looking at our last full year without solar, and that was 2021. And our home is 100% electric powered. We use no gas appliances. So for 2021, our total bill was $3,320. Our total kilowatt usage was 26,616, and that brought the average monthly kilowatt usage to 2,218. That is an average for us for the year because our summer months, we actually use a lot more because of the air conditioning. And in the winter, we don't use a heat pump because of our wood cook stove. So for the year, the kilowatt average was about 12 cents per kilowatt. If you want to compare that to where you are in the country and how yours is different. Now then, in 2022, we began using solar starting April 6th. And if you saw last week's video, you know our solar usage was progressive as we built the system, as we added more panels and more batteries. So our usage dropped throughout the year. But the total cost that we spent on electric in 2022 was $2,221. Our total kilowatt usage was 15,352, and that average was 1,280 per month. So just partially using solar last year dropped our monthly average over 1,000 kilowatts, or right at 1,000 kilowatts per month. But as we all saw in 2022, electric prices were going up, and our kilowatt rate increased to 14 cents per kilowatt. Now, if 2021 usage, the amount that we had used in 2021, had stayed the same from the electric company, but we had been charged the rates of 2022, then our cost in 2022 would have actually been $3,851. It would have been an increase from 2021 to 2022 of around $531 or $44.25 per month. And I'm sure many of you have seen your electric bills go up in a similar way. However, because we had started using solar, our total annual cost from 2021 until 2022 dropped by $1,000. So the way our solar power progressed during 2022, after that first day of power on April 6th, from then on, at least 3 weeks of each month were what we call 50% solar power, but I'm not really sure how much of the usage was solar and how much was grid. But we call it 50% because the solar was powering the well, the water heater, the fridges and freezers, and kitchen lights and living room lights. And everything else was still on the grid. And that would have included all the rest of the bedrooms and bathrooms, the heat pump, the stove, the dryer. Oh, the washing machine was on solar. About the time October came, we were confident enough in the size of the system at that point to try to run the entire house off solar power. So in October, we had 19 days of complete solar. November was a pretty cloudy on and off month, and so we just went back to that 50% level of solar power, half on the grid, half on solar. And then by December, especially once the wood stove was up and running, and I was using that more for cooking instead of the electric range, the last 2 weeks of December, we were 100% solar. So that's how we worked into having $1,000 in savings for our electric in 2022. So once the system had that last battery added in and we were pretty confident we were ready to test more often being 100% solar, and we've been starting the last 6 weeks to play with and see how far we can go on cloudy days or multiple cloudy days. In January of 2023, we had a total kilowatt usage of 132 kilowatts. Now, remember before, our average in 2021 was over 2,000 per month. And then in 2022, we were down to a little over 1,200 per month. And for January last month, 2023, we only used 132 kilowatts. And January was comprised of 3 days of complete grid power because my husband was switching some inverters back and forth. We had 8 days of between 50 and 80% solar power. And then we had 20 days of 100% solar. And that's how we ended up with only 132 kilowatts last month. And our bill was $46.75. But somewhere around $30 to $35 of that is just the minimum fee that you pay to have a meter on your house. So if we were to project our January numbers forward for the whole year, then for the whole year, our total kilowatt usage could be 1,584. And that would mean for the whole year, our cost for electric would be under $600 for the whole year. So if you compare what we would have paid in 2022 at the new rate of 14 cents per kilowatt, if you compare that to what we may pay this year in 2023 being under $600, it's an estimated savings of $3,000 per year at the current rates if our usage were to stay the same. At the rate that energy prices are increasing, it will take less than 10 years for the system to pay itself off. But in the meantime, we have a more stable source of energy should the grid have serious issues, or even just an emergency backup power in the event of an outage, which happens frequently for us. And considering that for 6 to 9 months of the year, we are making much more power than we are actually using, then should we ever buy an electric car, we could be charging that and then getting transportation for no cost because the power is just coming from the sun, and it's power that we would otherwise be dumping into the ground because we are not set up to feed the grid with any of our excess power. 7:30 on Monday morning in February, and this is what the sun looks like on the solar panels right now. They still have a little bit of shade on them from the objects that are to the east. Now it's a few minutes before 8:30 a.m. and both solar panels are in full sun. And of course, we all know the sun changes throughout the year, so how long they're in full sun for is going to be continue increasing through midsummer. Let's go see what the battery power is at now. 52%, because I've been using the batteries this morning before the sun came up. I kept track this week of what our solar power usage looked like based on the weather, the conditions in the sky, and also the usage in the house. And Sunday before I started keeping track, it was all rain and clouds. So when we got up in the morning before the sun was up, probably around 6 a.m., the battery was at 53%. Now we have plenty of before sunrise energy usage. It could be the stove, the blender, the washing machine, lights, electronics. And then during the daytime, I'm going to be using oven, stove, dishwasher, usually averaging 3 different showers for members in the household during daylight hours. But as you can see, as long as it's sunny, our battery is up to 100% by noon. And then, of course, once the sun goes down, we're using all the battery bank for our power. And usually in the evening, it's an additional shower or 2. There's stovetop, dishwasher, lights, and electronics being run. And the forecast on Friday told us it was going to be all clouds and rain that day. but I didn't bother altering my power usage because we knew that Saturday was going to be sunny all day. Now, if multiple days of full clouds was expected, or if we didn't know the forecast, then there's a couple things. One, I would not be running the dryer or the range oven after around 4 p.m., especially in the winter months. I might limit long hot showers in the evening. I would not have run the dehydrator on Friday like I did last week. And I would also limit my range cooking in general during the day. And the reason for that would just be to be extra sure that I have the battery power reserved to run my most important things, which is my well pump and my fridges and freezers, should we have extended multiple days of thick clouds. But otherwise, everything else, I'm willing to wait until a sunny day to do if I have to, or to use more of my manual tools that I have to accomplish those tasks. And the items that keep running all night long, even when we're sleeping, which are also using power, which it appears drops our solar probably 5 to 10% overnight, would be the fridges and freezers. In the winter, we have a heat pad for our dog that's always on the front porch. The water heater runs limited, depends on how the night gets, the water's used in the evening. And then the things you have phantom loads on, different stuff that's plugged in. And also in the garage, there's a Mr. Cool mini split, and he turns on if it gets below 46 degrees. And that was necessary to make sure the batteries stay at the right temperature. I'm editing this in later. I forgot to explain during the main part of the video. But if you want to understand this very simple graph, this side is all just percentages. This side is the days of the week. And I check the battery power 3 times each day. I checked it in the morning before sunrise, I checked it at noon, and I checked the percentage again in the PM, usually around between 8 and 9 p.m. So each day there's 3 points. There's morning, noon, evening. Morning, noon, evening. So you can see the pattern. Starts out low, I start using the power, but the sun's up, and so the battery power is going up anyway. And then in the evening, I've been using battery power after the sun has gone down. And so that's why it's dropped a little. And then it drops more overnight because it's using power during the night when we're sleeping. And then by noon the next morning, it's up again. So being that we're more than halfway through February now, and according to my calculations, we've only used around 37 kilowatts so far this month. And we really don't have a reason to plan to use any more. We should be 100% off grid the whole rest of the month. So last month, January, it was 132 kilowatts, and this month will definitely be under 50 kilowatts, barring any kind of emergencies. But my conclusion after this week of studying my usage, because I know a lot of people wonder, is it worth having solar if I have to guard my activities and not do certain things? Because you can just, if money isn't an issue, you could just run your regular electric from the grid without thinking about it. And having solar really makes you think about it more and consider how you're using your usage. But my conclusion is that solar power fits really well in a home where the family is home during the day, or at least one adult member, so they can do most of the energy usage while the sun is shining. And then in the evening, you can relax with limited power usage. But if your family's gone all day long, and when people get home in the evening, usually around the time of sunset, that's when you start cooking and cleaning and using heavy on your power. That's going to really draw on a battery bank pretty heavy. So you'd have to have a pretty big system to be able to do that. But that's just my guess as a newbie having solar power. To answer the question, was it worth it? Well, for us, we think it is worth it. We think the investment was a good investment for our context and what we were looking for. And we realize that for other people, it might not be. But as this year goes by and we see how things run and operate, we will know more and more. Now, will we be able to operate our home's air conditioning on the solar this summer? We shall see. That is the next big question mark that we are looking to explore. And if you missed the how and why we added solar to our homestead, or if you want to see the size of our system, then watch the video linked here. Next week, I'm so excited. It's time to start seedlings. And don't forget to live joyfully because God wins.